Hello, everyone. The stream you're about to watch is a podcast recorded by me, Optomitron, for my YouTube channel and for Spotify. It is being filmed live on my Twitch channel. It is a subscriber-only stream for my subs. This is going to be a little bit different than a normal stream. It is subscriber-only in the chat. Please feel free to chat amongst yourselves. Since it is a podcast, the chat interaction between me, the streamer, and the actual chat will be very limited, if any at all. I would like to give you guys a heads up for trigger warnings. If you guys, sex or drugs or death, if those are topics that trigger you, you may want to sit this one out until a normal stream. Also, all alerts and sounds have been disabled. So you will not be able to redeem sounds. You will not be able to redeem alerts if there are any bits or donations that come through. I will acknowledge them at the end of the stream or at the beginning of the next stream. And this will not affect any future streams, so I will still be streaming tonight at 5 o'clock, my normal stream where everything will be active again and it'll be like normal. So just wanted to give everybody a heads up. We'll be getting started soon, and thank you. Holy shit, we're actually doing this. This is a thing that's happening. Yeah, no, professional, it's a word. It's a word. This whole thing, especially the first episode, is going to be pretty much like shit whipping spaghetti against the wall and seeing what sticks. I've spent a lot of time in my own head the past couple of days, and just, I've wanted to do something like this for a while. I don't really get an opportunity during normal streams to go in depth into my character and who I am and where I came from, and like I occasionally tell stories, but like really only bits and pieces of stories, and especially focusing on like a fucking Mario level or something. I don't really get a chance to think too deeply about that kind of stuff. So I feel like this is a good opportunity and a good way for my audience to connect with me on like a deeper level and get to know me. And I do have this very relaxing Zen background. I'm thinking about doing a different background for every episode. So you guys are going to learn some things about me that you didn't know. A lot of stuff. That brings me to another topic, like something I was thinking about earlier today is all my groups of friends, everybody that I've met throughout my life, have heard bits and pieces of my story, and if you could get all these people together and put the stories, you could get like a clear picture of like who I am and where I came from. But the chances of that happening are very slim. So like people know me from one thing, or you know, another group of people knows me from another thing, and like they don't really know like the full story. And this is a good way for me to kind of get the full story out there, you know, kind of get what's on my mind and all these collective thoughts that I've been sitting on, you know. I've had kind of a rough time the past couple of days, you know, and it's hard. It's really hard when like you take a step out of yourself and you get a perspective look and you're like, dude, I have a wonderful family, an amazing wife, an awesome kid, like we just bought a house, like, you know, there's no reason, like there's no logical explanation or like no reason why anybody should be like depressed, you know, like why you sad, you know, like you shouldn't feel like that. You should be happy, you should be on top of the world. Fuck yeah, you're stressed, it's a big deal, like it's a big deal. But then, like, every time when I'm laying awake at night and I start thinking about, like, why I could feel like this and, like, why these thoughts and, like, why these feelings are going through me, like, I start taking a step back and I start looking at where I came from and, like, maybe, like, regrets or, like, maybe stuff that, you know, I repress, you know, like, stuff that I did when I was younger that are no longer a part of me, but they're still like in the back of my mind lingering, you know. So there's, again, trigger warnings. If things like sex and death and drugs and stuff like that, if that is a trigger warning for that, is that a trigger for you, and that's like something that you're gonna be like, oh, you know, fuck that, I can't be a part of that. It's probably not probably not going to be a good podcast for you. You should probably come back during a normal stream. So, where to start? Again, I've been thinking about this for a while. I dabbled a lot in like psychology and philosophy, and I've been through a lot of different phases in my life, and man, it's been a wild ride. Like we can start off. I don't want to go into like when I was young and I was a young boy and I grew up and I remember playing hockey, and we'll start when like shit started to get real. About the age of 14, I started stealing cigarettes from my mom, and I smoked weed for the first time when I was like 15, and drank for the first time when I was 15, and like just normal dumb kid stuff. But then like as time went on, like the choices that I was making like led, I don't want to say like a gateway, because like every kid does that shit, and no kid goes from like, okay, well, weed's awesome, let's fucking snort cocaine, you know what I mean? Like nobody gets to that point. But more like work ethic. I started working at a burger joint like at the front of my neighborhood when I was 16. I got my first job the day I turned 16 because I wanted my own money, and I hadn't been smoking weed for very long. But my first day on the job, I go in there, the manager takes me to the grill, and he's like, Chris, this is Nature Boy. Now imagine a dude named Nature Boy, and that is a picture-perfect image of what this motherfucker looked like. He's like tall, skinny, hippie dude, long dreads, in his burger uniform, and he's like, this is how you flip burgers. And then the manager hands me a joint and is like, go out to the dumpster and get high with Nature Boy. And I'm like, all right, cool. Fucking this is work. This is what we're going to do. And so, for the next 2 years, I just, flipped burgers and smoked weed and like became on this mission to find like this ultimate high. I smoked a lot of weed. Like I got really heavy into like psychedelics and doing LSD and mushrooms, and I fucking did cocaine for a little while because I was hanging out with the high school coke dealer, and I remember the last time I ever did cocaine, we had just thrown in on some, and within like 10 minutes it was all gone. And they were like, hey, let's throw in and get some more. And I was like, no, I think I'm done with this. So out of some of my decisions, some of my bad decisions came like, I don't know. I don't even know what the word is for it. Like reflecting inwards and thinking forward and being like, it's probably not a good idea. We should probably not do this, But man, just... that's where it started, and then I hit 17 and somehow managed to graduate early, like a little bit early. I think I graduated like a semester early, and decided that I was gonna sell weed, that I liked weed so much. And it started out with like, okay, well, if I get so much weed, I can sell so much weed, it'll pay for the weed that I smoke, and it'll just even out, so then I can just smoke weed for free. And then like, as the business savvy went a little bit further, like I got really, really good at it. And I was like, you know what? If I could just sell this much weed, then I can have this much money and this much weed left over to smoke. So at this point, I am selling weed. I decided that I didn't want to sell weed out of my parents' house anymore. So I got my first apartment when I was 17. Now that first apartment turned into like the den where I would just like sell weed. So I decided I was going to get a second apartment in the same complex, and I would have one apartment where I would live in, and then I would have another apartment where I sold weed out of. And that became like the thing. And I was dating this girl, and at the time I was still kind of heavy on LSD. And then I had a big incident that was kind of like a life-changing point for me. My first life-changing point. I was at a party, and I don't know how the fuck they got it, but they got like a half gallon of like real absinthe. I know it's a lot easier to get absinthe these days here in the States, but they had gotten like a real half gallon of absinthe somehow shipped in from France. And so we had this half gallon of absinthe, and so I'm like, we had just blown through some cocaine, we're drinking absinthe. Another good friend of mine from high school was there, and he's like, hey man, do you want some acid? And I'm like, yeah, I would love some acid. And so he hands me what I thought was 2 blotters, which if you don't know what a blotter is, it's a little square piece of paper. Hands me what I thought was 2 blotters. I take it. About 45 minutes goes by, and it's starting to kick in a little bit, and I see the dude who gave me the acid, like, shuffling through his pockets like he's looking for something. I'm like, hey man, did you lose something? Like, what are you looking for? He's like, I lost my acid. And I'm like, the 2 hits you gave me? He's like, no man, I lost like 20 hits. And so like now the wheels are starting to turn in my head, and I'm like, oh fuck, this is probably really, really bad. I run to the bathroom, and anybody that knows anything about acid knows this isn't going to work. It's not going to do anything. You can't just fucking throw it up. Once it's in your bloodstream, you're there. You're on the ride. You're on the ride. There's no getting off the ride. So I go to the bathroom. I hit the deck. I'm like trying to vomit, and I can't vomit. It's like everything in my stomach just comes all the way up to my throat, and then it comes all the way back down, all the way back up to my throat, all the way back down. And I just couldn't puke. And so I go out. I'm like, hey, somebody needs to take me home. Like, I gotta go. So I get home, to my parents' house. They took me to my parents' house. And I go to my mom's house, and I'm like in the backyard, like looking for the front door for about half an hour, 2 o'clock in the morning. Like, where's the front door at? Like going through bushes and shit. It's really bad. I knock on the door. She comes out. She's like, what are you doing here? And I'm like, hey, I need a place to crash. I'm really fucked up right now. And so I went upstairs and laid down. And for, I don't know, what seemed like an eternity, I just laid there in the darkness. But everything was like bright, like pitch black. Everything's bright because my pupils are gigantic. I'm tripping my balls off. Well, hi to this conversation. And so after what seemed like forever, it seemed like the world just kind of disappeared from existence. And I was just like these 2 floating eyeballs in space. And after what again seemed like an eternity, and I remember the last thing I saw was the alarm clock said 3:00. It was 3 o'clock on the dot. The world fades out of existence. I'm like these 2 floating eyeballs in space for like all of eternity. And then out of nowhere, the world just starts to come back into focus, and I see the clock again, and it says 6:00. So it had only been 3 hours. But in my mind, it had been like 75 years. It felt like it took forever. And so I woke up, took me to the hospital. There's nothing they can do, because there's nothing they can do for that. But I am still tripping my balls off. After about 3 days, I was just like so done. I was like, I do not want to be on this ride anymore, man. 3 days. And it just kept going. So after about 2 weeks of that, I felt like this is my life now. This is what I'm doing with my life. I'm just gonna trip forever. I'm perma-fried. And after about 2 weeks, I finally started to come down a little bit. And then for the next 6 months afterwards, I was just in slow motion. Like everything felt like I couldn't pick something up without it feeling like it was in slow motion. It was ridiculous. And that was like a turning point for me. I never did acid again after that, for sure. Did some mushrooms, but I never did acid again after that because I didn't want to feel that way, you know? And like that was my first mistake with going too far, you know what I mean? Like chasing that ultimate high. We had already had the absinthe, we had cocaine, we were smoking weed, like did not need to combine all those things, and had a really bad time. But during my recovery during that 6 months, I met my girlfriend, who ended up being like my high school sweetheart. Which, funny story, not only is the niece of Rodney King, but also her mom was invited to the house that the shared Tate murders, Charles Manson. She was also invited to that house the night the murders went down, but she decided not to go. So fucking small world, right? Rodney King and Charles Manson. Fucking just wild shit. But met her, and she was not like a productive member of society, we'll say. She fueled the fire of everything that I was doing wrong. Like, she was all about like the drugs and selling weed and like all about that, and it just became like really bad. Like it was, and I was like, for sure I love this girl, and like we're gonna get married and all this other stuff, and it was just really bad. And coming out of that, you know, like this is, somebody pulled a hatchet on us in the complex, in the apartment complex, pulled a hatchet out of their trunk. Not like a little itty bitty hat, like a fucking real hatchet. And she chased this dude down with a chair to like whoop his ass. Like that's just crazy shit. And moving out of that, we split. We eventually finally split up. I had gotten really bad on Xanax. I had started taking Xanax a lot. And just, I don't know, man. Like that became like my drug of choice. Like I loved not feeling anything. I loved like just being able to sleep whenever I wanted to sleep and not having to worry about anything. And I was mixing alcohol with it, and just a really bad combination that kills a lot of people like every day. Got really bad on that. Moved out of the apartments. Me and her split up. She wanted to move to California and wanted me to move with her. Found out that she had been cheating on me with another drug dealer. Which, big surprise. But then even after the fact, like, she still wanted me to move out to California with her. And I was like, no, I'm not. Like, it's not going to happen. And so that became like a big catalyst for like what was going to happen next in my life. Like at that point, like I moved in with a buddy of mine, and I kept selling weed, and we were living cheap, so I was like making even more money. And then this is when like we got okay, so before I tell the story of how I got caught, I got really like even worse on Xanax. So I was crushing up probably 5 full Xanax bars like every morning, eating those, washing it down with some either shitty alcohol, either like Bud Ice or like Evan Williams, because it's fucking cheap and I didn't know any better. And that was how I started my day. A box of blunts, 5 Xanax bars, and a drink. The most I've ever drank in one sitting was I drank a gallon of Evan Williams by myself in 18 hours. And that was with a 6-hour nap in there. So, yeah, chasing that ultimate high. Did not give a fuck about myself or anybody else. Just really self-destructive behavior, you know? And it took me getting caught up, like, in the judicial system to get my shit together, man. And that's like the worst fucking thing I've ever been through in my life. So, Xanax. This is how I got off of Xanax. Is one morning, like normal, I did my thing. I crushed up some Xanax, had a drink, rolled up a box of blunts, blacked out. Like I had noticed that I had been blacking out more and more lately, but the blackouts were like, I was coherent. So like I would black out on Monday and I would wake up on Thursday and I'd be like, dude, what the fuck just happened? And they would be like, I don't know what you're talking about. You were fine. Like, you drove me around and shit on Wednesday. And I'm like, I don't remember any of that. Like, I was blacking out for, like, almost a week at a time. But I was there. But it wasn't me. It was, like, the other me. And so it was fucked up. And so, the last time that happened, I blacked out in the morning. And I woke up, like, 26 hours later in Panama City, Florida, in a hotel room at spring break. Like, right down the beach, probably, I don't know, maybe 100 yards down the beach from our balcony was MTV Spring Break, all that shit going on. And I woke up in a hotel room with 30 Xanax bars in one pocket, like $900 in cash in my wallet, and then like 2 ounces of weed in my other pocket. Woke up in a hotel room, thirsty as shit. And I get up and I open the mini fridge and there's like a 30-pack of beer in the mini fridge. Now again, I don't know where I'm at. I don't know who I'm there with. The last thing I remember, I was in Arkansas and I look out the window of this hotel room and there's the beach and MTV Spring Break. So I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And then my roommate turns up and another one of our friends. We had drove down there in a Mitsubishi Eclipse, which is a 2-seater car, and there's 3 of us. Work the math out on that. I don't know. I don't know how this happened. And so we end up there, and then coming back, I just had like this moment of like, I don't remember getting down here. Like, I should probably get my shit together and like stop doing Xanax. And so I decided when we got back that I was going to quit cold turkey. Like, I had been on Xanax for a little over a year at this point, but I was doing large quantities of it. And so I sweated it out. I stayed on the couch for 2 weeks. And after about the first week, I wanted to die. Like, I was not having a good time. I didn't want to smoke cigarettes. I didn't want to smoke weed. I didn't want to eat or drink anything. I just wanted to be left alone. And even my roommate's mom, who was a nurse at the time, was like, you're going to seize out and die if you don't take a small dose and wean yourself off. And I was like, nope, I've come too far. I refuse. I will not take it. Yeah, no, it was. That's probably the toughest thing I've ever had to do. It was awful. But yeah, so got off of Xanax. But that's all I did. I kept drinking, kept smoking, kept selling weed. Now, about this time, my roommate decides he wants to, since I'm selling weed and I'm successful and doing well at it, that he wants to sell pills. So he starts selling pills and getting his pills from the guy up the street who, gotta say, really cool guy, played in a band, was a really cool older guy. For whatever reason, they were giving, like, I don't know, they were giving him, like, insane quantities. Like 400 methadone pills a month and, like, 200 Xanax pills a month. And he was just getting, like, these giant bottles of pills, like, prescribed to him. And they were giving him this shit. And he was like, I don't take all this stuff. So he was just trading it to us for weed. So my roommate would buy weed for me, trade weed for the pills. And get the pills, and then would sell the pills. And this went on for a little bit. And then he brought in one of his friends who had an undercover cop with him. Okay? And during this whole transaction, like, he sold pills to this guy, his friend, who was, like, I guess a narc trying to get out of trouble or whatever, and sold pills to him, and bought some weed from me to sell to this guy, but they counted it as me selling the weed. So when the shit hit the fan, like, we both got charged with the same shit, because we were living together, we were both selling whatever. Here's the kicker, though. The guy down the street dies in a 4-wheeler accident. And so there are no more pills. There were no pills in our house at all. We had no pills. No pills there. For whatever, I don't know why it took them so long, but, like, they finally come and raid our house. And at this point, I am dating a midget stripper. You can't make this shit up. A midget stripper named Bubbles. and we're dating, and she's in the bedroom passed out. I hear banging on the door. I thought somebody was there to buy some weed, so I open the door in my boxers. There's fucking SWAT all over the place with guns drawn, and I'm like, come on in, guys. No, actually, the conversation that took place was, we can arrest you right now and come back with a warrant to search your place, or and if we do that, we're going to arrest everybody that's here right now, or you can let us in, give us everything you have, and we'll let everybody else go. So at that point, I'm like, okay, whatever, dude, you got me. I'm here, you got me, you can have my weed. Like, that's all I had. They tear our place apart, and I'm like, what are you guys looking for? I have given you the marijuana, like, what do you want? They were there looking for the pills. Is it PC to say midget? I mean, that's what she told everybody she was. So yeah, a little person stripper. So they come in. I've smoked an entire pack of cigarettes in probably about 15 minutes. I've never done that before in my life. I was like, I'm going to jail. I don't know when I'm getting out. And so, yeah. So they come in, and I'm like, hey, look, I'm in my boxers. I got nothing. My girlfriend is asleep in bed. Can I, like, at least, like, just watch me? I'll stand by the hallway. I'll give you everything I have. I just want to tell her to, like, put some clothes on and put my dog in the kennel. Well, my dog starts barking from the kennel, and they almost killed my dog. Like, it was bad. They dragged my roommate out of bed. And they were so pissed, man. They were so fucking pissed. There were no pills in the house. They didn't give a shit about the weed. They did not care about the weed. They wanted the pills. And so, I mean, we told them everything. We're like, dude, we're getting it from the dude down the street. He's fucking dead. He died. Like, there's no more pills. I don't know what you want from us. It does not exist anymore. And they were so pissed and so unfocused about the weed that while they were collecting everything up, they dropped a bunch of weed in the hallway. So, like, when we got out of jail a few days later, there was fucking, like, 2 ounces of weed just in, like, little, like, a foot apart all the way down the hallway. A bunch of weed left over. So, we go to court. We go to jail. A couple days later, I go to court. It's me and my brother sitting there. It's the district court for, like, the sentencing or whatever. And so I haven't talked to any lawyers or anything yet. Like, my public defender comes over, and the public defender, very nonchalant, like, how do you want to plead? And I'm like, I don't know, not guilty? Like, well, what do you want to do? And I was like, what can I do? Can I go to the military to get out of this? And she's like, okay, hold on. And she just kind of trots over to the prosecuting attorney, and I see her lean down and whisper in his ear, and he kind of looks up, and he just shakes his head no. And she comes back over, and she's like, no, he won't go for that. Is there anything else you want to do? And I was like, I don't know, probation? And she's like, oh, hold on, I'll be right back. And she walks over there, and she leans down and whispers into his ear. He looks up, he shakes his head no. And then she comes back, and she's like, nope, he won't go for that either. And I'm like, well, what the fuck are my options? Go to jail? Like, what? You're a terrible lawyer. And she's like, no, check this out. We're going to put you in what's called PAC court, which is drug court. It's an intense supervised probation where every day you have to wake up and call this hotline number. It's like a 1-800 number, and if they call your color, you have to go up there and take a drug test. You have to go to 1 group counseling session a week, 1 solo counseling session a month, and then like so many NA meetings every month. So I can't remember, I think like 12. I think you have to go to 12 meetings a month. And so I'm like, yeah, whatever, dude. Whatever I have to do. I don't want to go to fucking jail. Because, like, it was like 6 Class Y felonies. Because they got me for, like, manufacturing, distributing, blah, 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 whatever. And if I had gotten convicted, I would have gone to jail for, like, 40 fucking years. Like, I would have been in... I would have still been in there. So I'm like, yeah, let's do that. Let's do that. At that point, I had to get out of where I was living. Like, at that point, like, because felons, you can't live together. So, like, even though me and my roommate already lived together, and we got charged together, like, could not live together. So I went to live with my girlfriend, Bubbles. So I move in with her. I lived there for all of 3 months. I got a job, got a real job, at Subway, where they eat fresh. So I got a job at Subway. Worked myself up to the night manager position. So I'm the night manager there. And me and her lived together for a couple months. And every 2 weeks when I got paid, I would give her money to pay the bills. And then after 3 months, came home from work one day. There was an eviction notice on the door, and the lights were off. And so I walk inside. I'm like, dude, what's up with this? There's an eviction notice and the lights are off. Like, where's the money? And she's like, well, I've been putting in the cash in the envelope and putting it in the landlord's door. And I'm like, no, oh my God. And at that point, during that conversation, the water got shut off. So like at that, I'm like, dude, really? Like, I'm so pissed. Like, I'm defeated. I'm like, dude, I already got so much shit going on in my life. You were like the one thing that like I still had. A stripper or not, you're like the one thing that I still had. And so yeah, no, at that point there were no windows in the bedroom. So like everything that I could find that was mine in the dark, I packed up like a backpack and like a box. I had like a backpack and a box, and I just took off walking down the street with my dog and just didn't know where I was gonna go. At this point I was fucking homeless. Like, I'm homeless. I'm required by the state to work and to be somewhere that's fucking 30 minutes away so many times a week. I got no car. Like, I'm fucked. I'm in a very bad spot. And so I called up one of my coworkers from Subway, and I was like, hey man, here's the situation. Like, is it cool if I crash with you for a while? And he was like super fucking cool about it. He let me sleep on his couch. Like, so I slept on his couch for a couple months. His dad sold me a car. It was a little piece of shit fucking like 86 Chevy Cavalier, and the windows didn't work on it, and there was no air conditioning, and it was like like it's cold outside, so fucking but it got me where I needed to go. Like, I got to my fucking meetings. I went and met my probation officer. Like, I did everything I had to do. And that was a struggle. And time went on for a little bit. I met another girl and fell in love for the second time. Cause like I knew I didn't love the stripper. Like, she was supposed to be my rock and be there for me, but she wasn't. So the girl that I fell in love with for the second time, who ended up being extremely fucking crazy, like so crazy. So met her, decided I was gonna rent out a house. I found another roommate. We rented a house. Still doing probation stuff. And like, was enamored. I was really like, thought that I was gonna marry this girl, yada yada, same bullshit over and over again. And Christmas rolls around, and come to find out on Christmas Day that not only is she married, like, has a husband I didn't know about, but she's leaving to go be with her husband. And I'm like, really? God damn, dude, I am like the best at picking picking companions. Yeah, and then this bitch took a loaf of bread. She took a loaf of bread out of the cabinet when she left. Oh man, it's so awful. Took a loaf of bread, she left. And so, like, again, fucking every like, knock me down, pick me back up, knock me down, pick me back up. So, like, it's just like this whole wave of depression. Like, if I kept on going like the drug dealer route, there was no good ending there. I was either gonna end up in prison, or I was gonna get fucking killed. Like, there was no, because I mean, I wasn't like cartel status or fucking Colombian drug lord status, but I was moving over a pound a week. Like, I was moving some fucking weight. So there was no good ending there. So, like, what happened needed to happen. Like, I needed to go to court. I needed to, like, know that it was possible for me to go to fucking prison for 40 years. Like, I needed to see that. That is destiny. That is that is whatever higher power you believe in, because my higher power, my God, which is not a religious God, it's not the Judeo-Christian God, it's not like the Hindu God, it's not any of that. Like, my God is this fucking omnipotence that puts shitty situations on you to realize your fucking mistakes and like move forward in life. Like, you need to get over this hurdle. Like, this is what you're doing wrong, this is where you're fucking up, this is what you need to do to fix it. Like, that's my God. And I needed for that to happen. But so, like, went from that, got a job, worked my way up in the company to get a better position, got a car, started doing the things that I needed to do, and then fucking, you know, Bubble stole all my money. I didn't finish that part of the story. So found out she had a drug addiction. She was spending $70 a day on hydrocodone. I have only had hydrocodone a couple times in my life, but I'm pretty sure it's like $7 for an entire script if you have insurance. $70 a day. So that's what happened there. Anyway, moving forward, back to the house. So now I'm stuck in this house. I got a roommate. I'm like feeling sour about stuff because like I only got the house so me and this girl could be together, and like now she's gone, and like now I've got this time on my hands. I can't really do anything. Kept drinking real heavily. Decided to start getting back into music. And now here's where my life takes a complete 180. Is because I started writing songs again. I started playing music. I have now switched professions. I am now working at a liquor store, which, gotta say, for the time that I was there, it was totally cool right up until the end. But I started working at this liquor store with this dude who, come to find out, is a bassist and was in the original Alice in Chains back when they were Diamond Lie in the 80s before they became Alice in Chains. The dude used to play in a band with Jerry Cantrell and Lane Staley and has met the Rooster. Dude has met Jerry Cantrell's dad and knows the dude. Like, he's met Dave Mustaine, hung out with Dave Mustaine, super cool. I got pictures. If you guys, I will try to figure out, I don't know, because it's gonna be Spotify and stuff. I'll figure out a way to post a picture. But the dude is like really cool, really good friend of mine, and started playing music with this guy. But like, and we had some really good stuff, but it didn't go anywhere. Like, I think he quit and went to work some other job, and anyway, so I'm on this music tip. Like, I gotta get in a band. I gotta get this shit together. So I put out an ad on Craigslist that's like, punk singer, rhythm guitarist looking for a band. And then that's where I met Dave and Ryan, and that's how we started Reckless Endeavor, which, first time I met those dudes, met up at a gas station, like a mile down the street from their house, and dude gets out of the car holding a tall boy of Bud Light and a wife beater, and I'm like, this is all kinds of sketch. I feel like I'm about to get robbed or something. And so so met them on Craigslist, started jamming with those dudes, and we were a 4-piece. There was an extra guy named Flip, who didn't stay very long, but covers, man. We learned like probably a 3 or 4 hour set of covers, just any 90s song you could imagine. And I just, like, that was it, dude. If I was not at work or doing probation stuff, like, I was there hanging out with those dudes, playing music, and it was good shit. It was good for me. It felt good. I was doing something productive. And then after a few months of that, like, I started bringing my original content to the mix and like bringing my songs and stuff. And was like, look, guys, like, we don't have to play covers. Like, we can play originals. Like, you guys want to do a 3-hour set of covers and then do like 1 or 2 original songs in there. Like, we can do like a full hour and a half of nothing but original stuff. And so we became an original band, and Reckless Endeavor worked its way up. We were a terrible band, by the way. Let me just say that we fucking sucked. But we were really passionate, and we had a lot of fun, and everybody that came to our shows had a really good time. And we worked our way up. We were the #1 punk band in Little Rock, Arkansas, on purevolume.com, which was like the best local band website that you could use. That's what everybody used. We were the #1 band in Little Rock, Arkansas for 4 years in a row. And we did that, man. We left like a pretty big fucking legacy. And that brought me out of some hard times. So out of that, I had just found out that my mom had gotten sick. She had gotten diagnosed with cancer. And the lease was up at the house. So I moved out of that house and moved back in with my folks to help out with my mom. And it was closer to the Reckless house too, where we jammed at. So I mean, it was a much shorter drive. So it made sense. So I moved back in over there, and we kept playing music. And shit got bad at the liquor store. Like, the manager, one, she would let all of us drink on the clock, which was terrible. One, it's illegal. It's illegal as fuck. But two, then she was getting away with shit behind our backs that we had no idea about. Like, she was like slinging 30 packs out the back door and like keeping the money. So I mean, she was making like $300 a night, fucking slinging 30 packs out the back door, and then blaming it on us, telling us that like we weren't watching the front door close enough or good enough, and telling like the owner that. And so it got to the point where like I told the dude, I was like, look, man, I'm looking for another job, like. And I love you, I love this place, but I don't like working for her. And then she spun it around, and it was like trying to say that like I didn't want to work for a woman. And I was like, dude, I swear to God, it is not that she's a woman. I don't care if she's a woman or not. I don't care who I work for. I don't like the way that I'm being treated. You know, like I don't like being yelled at and screamed at for doing my job. And you know, like maybe you should take a second look at things. That's all I'm saying. Nope, let me go right then and there. It was like, nope, we're done here. I was like, okay, thanks. So now I'm free of a job. I don't have a job. At this point, either I was really close. I had either just gotten off of probation or I was really close. I was on probation for 3.5 years. That shit sucked, man. Sucked. You're not allowed to leave. You're not allowed to leave the county. You're not allowed to leave the county unless you have like a work permit or something, you know. And just, man, I sat through a lot of NA meetings, and like those group counseling sessions, it's fucked up. It's fucked up, dude. Those group counseling sessions where you have to meet up with, and a probation officer goes in to do the group counseling. The first day I went and sat in there, I sat down at the desk. There's a pencil and a piece of paper in front of you. Everybody got in there, and then she's like, I want you to write down on this piece of paper how you've sexually harmed somebody in the past. And I'm like kind of looking around at everybody, and like I look at her, and I'm like, excuse me? And she's like, I want you to write down how you've sexually harmed somebody in the past. And I just kind of like raised my hand, and I was like, I think I might be in the wrong place. I'm here for weed. And she's like, no, you're in the right place. And I was like, well, I have never sexually harmed anybody, unless you count like having calluses on my hand. Like, I don't know what you want me to tell you. And so like I just wrote that on the paper. I was like, I have never sexually harmed somebody in the past. Like, I don't know what you want me to tell you, dude. And then like another time, because the drug testing or whatever, you're in a line. You're in a line to the bathroom. There's like 2 stalls, and they're not even stalls. They're just like 2 what are they called? Urinals. There's 2 urinals, right? And so there's a long line of dudes, and then like the officer is in the bathroom like watching you whip it out to make sure that you're not trying to cheat. And then like some idiot, it was the white guy that had a black Wizinator, and that's what they're called. They're like the dildos that you can put the fake pee in. And this little white guy whips out a black Wizinator, and the probation officer just starts dying laughing. And like I'm like right around the corner, I'm like watching this go down. He's like, dude, are you fucking stupid? Come on. And they arrest the guy on site. Like, they were pretty serious about everything. Like, they were not playing around. I just remember like my last day in court, because you have to do court appearances too once a month. And so like my last day in court, I stood up in front of the judge, and she was like, Mr. Crawford, she was like, today is the day that you're done with probation. You're done. And since you completed the program, you can even have your entire record expunged. You have to go downstairs and go to whichever department. She was like, tell them, they'll have all the information. They'll seal your records. So like, as long as you don't ever fuck up again, like, you're fine. It won't show up on a background check or anything like that. You're good. You are now, you can vote. You can vote again, and you're a fully functioning member of society. But like, one thing she said to me, she goes, you did not go through this smoothly. She was like, you hit every fucking speed bump along the way. And I was like, yes, ma'am, I did. And she was like, I just want you to know that I'm proud of you. And I was like, fuck yeah, dude. And then I went and got high. And then I went and got some weed. After 3.5 years of not being able to do it. Just cuz, man. Just cuz. Because it's not the weed's fault. You know what I mean? It's fucking stupid people. It's me being stupid. But no, I don't smoke anymore. A big reason, job is the biggest reason. Like, I've been with my company now for, God, over 7 years. So I've been with this company. We work closely with the Department of Transportation. So, like, also, we live on site. So, kind of fucking suck to get fired and evicted on the same day. Don't really want to fuck around. So that's one reason. But I do advocate for it. I think it should be legal. I think if it were legal, I think less dumb kids like me would be like, oh man, weed is awesome. What else do they not want us to do? And like, probably wouldn't go and do cocaine or acid or fucking whatever. You know what I mean? Like, dude, I'm telling you, just like this, I don't know why that is such a thing, dude. Like, when you're that young, like, why is it the search for the ultimate high? Like, why would you go out and look for that? You know, I fucking tried everything. Everything. I never tried crack. And I never tried heroin, but I did methadone. I did methadone, which is almost as bad. I didn't shoot it up, but it's synthetic heroin, so it's almost the same fucking thing. What else? Oh, and I did try meth once. I was at a party, tried meth once, and fuck that shit, man. there is a reason. There is a reason why so many fucking people do that shit. There's a reason why so many people smoke crack and do heroin. Like, just don't fucking do it. Your curiosity, you do not need to satisfy that curiosity. I promise you, you will not be happy afterwards. Like, just don't do it. You know, don't go chasing the ultimate high. The ultimate high is what I have now. You know, like, I have this. I have a career. I have 2 careers. I have 2 fucking careers. I have a wonderful, super awesome wife. I have a child, this being that no matter what kind of fucked up mood I'm in, no matter what's going on in my brain, when I look at my son, all of that just fucking goes away. It's just gone. It's just gone. I feel like, I don't know, man. I just feel like the slate is wiped clean. All that shit that I just told you guys, all that shit I did in my past, all that shit that clings to the back of my mind, my nightmares. Because I have nightmares, not as much anymore, but occasionally I do. I have fucking nightmares about the shit that I've been through and about the shit that I've seen. And, man, it's just, all of that shit goes away. I thought I was gonna die in jail once. I was in jail, and this old man, he was an old black dude. We called him Old School. He fell out and started having a seizure. Okay, he was diabetic. He was having a seizure, diabetic, or whatever the low blood sugar one is. But he needed sugar, and there was a dude in there that had some cookies, and he was a big motherfucker, and he could have crushed me. And we all pounded on the windows and shit to try and get the cops to come over, because we're like, hey, dude, this dude is having a seizure. Like, we need help. All the cops are just kind of brushing us off. They don't give a shit. And I had to punk this dude down and take his cookies. I'm like, dude, I need your cookies. He's like, why? I'm like, that dude is going to fucking die. Like, I need your cookies right now. And he's like, you're not taking my cookies. And I was like, I will fucking take your cookies if you do not give them to me right now. This dude is like twice my size. And I was just like, just that look, man, I just gave him, I was like, I don't want to fucking do this, but I'll do this, okay? Give me your cookies. And so I got the cookies, and I gave that old man the cookies. And that dude's probably dead now, because he was old then. But I saved that man's life that day, alright? I saved that dude's fucking life. I got him some cookies, and got him up, and fucking gave him some water, and fucking saved that guy's life, you know? And just... I don't know where I was going with that thought. I just want to tell that story. But I mean, it's an important part of being a human being, though, is looking out for other human beings. No matter the circumstances, no matter how shitty things are, like, take care of people, you know? I might have been that dude. I might be that dude at some point. You never know. Like, and I'm gonna need somebody to fucking punk somebody down and give me some cookies. You know? So, it happens. It happens, you know? And so, it was a lot of bad shit that happened. And it just kept getting worse, man. Again, like, I got out of all that shit. I got to the point where I was done with court. I was done with the judicial system. I was out of there, man. I was out of there. I was fucking scot-free. I'm in a band. My band is doing well. Like, we're going out of town every weekend to play shows, and fucking shit is good, right? Shit is awesome. Life is good. You know? And then my mom. My mom just kept getting worse and worse, man. And she had lung cancer. I remember the last time she went to the hospital, me and my dad carried her out of her bedroom and into the kitchen, and sat her down, and she just kind of fell flat on the table, like she couldn't breathe. And the fire department showed up first, and I don't know why it bugged me so bad, but like they're like looking at her and stuff, and they're like, okay, well the ambulance is about to be here, and like we're gonna get her loaded up in the ambulance, we're gonna take her to the hospital. But I mean, like, they just like left her like laying on the counter. I'm like, fucking do something. Like, I don't know, man. I don't know what I want you to do. I just remember it in my mind, like, do something. She's just laying there, like, help her. Like, this is what you're supposed to do. Fucking do something, you know? And so we got her loaded up, and we took her to the hospital. And we got her to the hospital, we got her set up. They gave her the breathing tube. And so she has the breathing tube in, and I mean, she's in and out of consciousness. At this time, I was working valet at the hospital. I worked for a 5-star valet company, where I got to drive Porsches and fucking Land Rovers and shit, which is cool. We did a gala event once where the caterers gave us like all these fucking super expensive bottles of wine that were already open that they couldn't do anything with. So I got like, I don't know, probably $300 or $400 of fucking wine, which is cool. But I was working. Oh, you can sue him for it. Okay, I didn't think about that. But it was July 4th. Okay, July 4th, the hospital shut down early, and our booths were not allowed to shut down early. Okay, so like we closed at, we were supposed to close and shut down at like 3 o'clock. I left 5 minutes early that day. Okay, and this was to go to the hospital and be with my mom. So I left 5 minutes early because there was nobody there. There was not a fucking soul in the building. There was not anybody out in the parking lot. There were no cars. I had not parked a car that entire day. Okay, it was slow. So I left 5 minutes early. I got fired because I left 5 minutes early. And because I got fired, I was able to spend those last couple of days with my mom, which was awesome. So I got to spend the last couple of days in the hospital with my mom. The one regret is the last night before she passed away, everybody went home. Nobody was there. So that entire night she spent by herself. And I mean, there's nothing you can fucking do about it. You know, you can't do anything about it now. But that's the one big regret. But the day finally came. They called all the family up there, and it was sink or swim time. They were gonna pull out the breathing tube, and either she was gonna breathe on her own, or she wasn't. And they kept telling us very subtly what was gonna happen if she couldn't breathe on her own, but they didn't actually say that she was gonna die. Like, they didn't tell us exactly that was what was gonna happen. But if we had, paid attention, been listening, and so we're all in there, and they pull the breathing tube out, and she had been trying to tell us to pull the breathing tube out the entire time, to the point where, like, one of the last things she did before she passed away was she flipped all of us off, which, because she was trying to motion and, like, tell us, and we're, like, playing charades with her. We're like, oh, we're gonna pull the tube out, like, we're gonna get it, like, what do you want us to do? And she, like, flipped us off, because that's the kind of family we have. And so they pulled the breathing tube out. And for, like, the first 15, 30 minutes, everything was fine. She was breathing on her own. She was doing good. And I sat there and held her hand, and then shit went sideways, and they turned off the heart monitor and stuff, because, like, it was inevitable at that point. There was nothing you could do. And so my family was there. My dad, my brothers were there. I got to hold her hand while she passed, which was more than most people get. You don't get to pick and choose these moments, but I got to be there. I got to hold her hand, and she passed away. And then we saw a nurse's day fucking ruined forever. So a few minutes after she passes away, it's quiet. We're grieving. It's very quiet in the room. There's like 6 doctors standing outside, like, watching through the window or whatever to give us space. So they're kind of watching what's going on. And I guess she was new. I don't know if it was her first day, but this girl walks up and she's got her clipboard and she's all peppy and stuff, and she comes walking into the room. She's like, "Oh, I'm here to get Mrs. Crawford's food order for her diet thing or whatever." And we just all kind of look at her, and then my dad just goes, "I don't think that's going to be necessary." And then she looked up and realized what was going on. Her face turned so fucking white, dude. Her face turned so... like a ghost. I have never seen somebody turn white so fast. She just turned so white. Immediately, it was like, "I'm sorry," turns around and fucking bolts and just runs off. And I'm like, these 6 doctors standing outside in the hallway watching this go down couldn't have said something or grabbed her before she went in there? Like, no, so that was, it's cool. That lightened the mood a little bit, at least. It lightened the mood. But it was sad. It was sad. My mom got a bright pink coffin. She wanted a bright pink coffin, and she got a bright pink coffin. She got a hot pink fucking casket. But yeah, so that's been a constant in my life. Like, every time something good happens and I make a little progress in my life, something fucking shitty happens and brings me right back down. And that's been like the one constant until now. And I fucking every day, I'm so thankful, so thankful for my life and what it is and how hard I worked to get here and the people in it. I love my community, and my family, and I'm very fortunate and lucky to have all these people here, and I'm again, this whole podcast thing, My main objective is catharsis, you know. To recap, the last couple of days I've been really deep inside of my head, and you know, a lot of thinking about philosophy a lot and life, and like, you know, on a universal scale being so like insignificant, but then like, you know, as people, as individuals, we create these worlds around us, you know. So like on a universal scale, like I don't fucking matter, you know what I mean? Like whatever other intelligent life is out there, like whatever meteor is crashing through planets right now, whatever black hole is destroying, you know, a galaxy somewhere, like me, insignificant. But here, right now, like the people around me and the actions that I take and the entertainment that I try to provide and the, you know, all of that shit matters, you know. It matters. If I can touch one person, that sounds wrong. That sounds wrong. If I could touch one person, you know, it's worth it. You know, like this is what I love to do. I love to talk to people. I love to be here doing what I'm doing. I love my family. I love that they're a part of it. You know, I love how supportive my wife is. You know, and again, like everything I went through, it all led me here. You know, I couldn't be. You think about having a time machine. You think about having a time machine and going back in time. If you could go back and change things, like would you? You know, and I don't think I could. Sure, there's things I regret. There's things I wish I didn't do, but like I don't think I could. I couldn't jeopardize having what I have now. I couldn't not be me now. You know? Like, yeah, I have everything that I want. You know, I have my family and my community, and we just bought a house and like all these things, but I still get fucking sad sometimes. You know, and that's okay. People can have happy, awesome lives and still get fucking sad sometimes. And I think that's a lot of why I'm doing this podcast, you know. Part of it's reflecting on things that I've been through, and again, you know, the philosophy and talking about life and like why we're here and where we're going with it and why I did some of the fucking stupid things I did. God. And how I became the person I became. But we're out of time for episode 1. So if I can leave you guys with anything on this first episode, it doesn't matter what you've done in your past. It doesn't matter who you were. Tomorrow can always be different. I love you guys. Now I can talk freely to chat because I'm gonna I'll clip it right there. That'll be the end of the podcast. So we move into Discord to talk to more. We can talk here now. I got what I needed. That's what I wanted for the podcast. What did you guys think? Like what? How does everybody feel about it? Does everybody like the podcast? Do you like it, Dukin? Fucking love you, man. Thank you for the $20 donation. I still heard the alert. So I think that's probably that'll be in the video. I thought if I made a scene that didn't have the alert set up, I'm gonna have to make sure I actually mute that in the future. Can we get, please? If I could touch one person, that sounds wrong. Right, Neko. Right. And I'm going to get into that in future podcasts. I'm going to get into that. One of the things that I didn't get to talk about today was that I see that. I am very envious. I'm very envious of people who can post freely on social media about, like, feeling down, you know, about being depressed, about feeling down. Because I can't. I'm just not programmed to be that. I can talk openly to people. I can talk but like writing it down and posting it, like I don't know. That's a good conversation. We'll talk about that. Aw, Lady Dragon. We didn't hear the alert. I don't want to be the next guest on the podcast. I got you. And I can have guests on the podcast from wherever you're at. That's what's awesome about it. Is it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be. You don't have to be here in the studio. Like I can interview you wherever you're at. So. But yeah, thank you guys for being here. I really appreciate. I didn't think anybody was going to show up because I was like, oh, don't worry about it. It's fine. I'm going to put it on YouTube and Spotify. You don't have to show up.